You guys have been bringing it up lately, so we're going to talk about it. What is up, San Antonio Spurs fans? Welcome to TSR Sports. Hope you're having a great week. And today we're going to talk about, are the Spurs tanking or is Mitch Johnson clueless? I'll give my take on that in just a few moments, but I want to get to an article first from Air Alamo. And after the Air Alamo article, we're actually going to dig into the net ratings from NBA.com to see which lineups are working and which aren't and talk a little. We'll get into that. But first, let's get into this article. Mitch Johnson was put in an unbelievably difficult position, he was, when he was thrust in charge of our Spurs as head coach after Pop suffered a mild stroke. While we wait his return in hopes of a full recovery, I'm hearing maybe this month, but we don't officially know. Johnson's impressive start has made a turn for the worst. Yeah, the Spurs are 6-12 in 2025. Remember we were talking about, hey, we might have a winning streak coming up, seeing the Eastern Conference opponents we had? Well, we split that. What we thought would be a winning streak, 2-2 so far. Anyway, back to the article. San Antonio was playing 500 ball in 2024. Yeah, sometimes a game or two above it, maybe a game below it, but we were always right there. They were impressing NBA observers everywhere as they were ahead of everyone's predictions for the season. Hey, we already exceeded the last two seasons' win total, by the way. They're at 23, 22, and 60 the previous 2 years. So we're making progress, guys. Their defense was much improved, and they closed games. But then everything changed. Yes, 2025 rolled in. The opponents got tougher in January, and the season cratered. I think we won 4 games in January. January's pretty bad. Losing games in a more difficult month was bound to happen, but the eye test told us something was wrong. They would spend the first half of the games in close battles with the other team before being blown out in the second half. Yeah, some of the third quarter meltdown, fourth quarter meltdown, we've all said that plenty of times during the live streams. They're 2-4 this month, and the 2 wins aren't that impressive. No, they're really not. A 1-point win against a faltering Atlanta team where he gave up 125 points, and last night's victory, well, now not last night, previous night, against the worst team in the NBA, the Washington Wizards, and we still gave up 121 to the Wizards. We made some players I've never heard of look like all-stars, which we tend to do on a regular basis, do we not? Chris Paul or De'Aaron Fox should be on the floor at all times. I agree with that. Last year, the Spurs gathered plenty of evidence that the team performed better with a real point guard on the floor. True story. Now that Fox is here, there's never a reason not to have either him or CP3 on the floor since they're both expected to play significant minutes. Stephon Castle is having a Rookie of the Year worthy season, but he's also been better when he isn't the only ball handler and playmaker on the perimeter. 100%. Let's get a little further into the article. Tom here says, the Spurs have had De'Aaron Fox and Chris Paul on the roster 4 games. 4 games in a row where we've seen lineups without either of them, and I'm struggling to understand why. Part of this might be because the Spurs are continuing to start De'Aaron Fox and Chris Paul. I know there's the promised handshake agreement. We don't know what really said behind the scenes 100%. This community seems a little less than split now that maybe Paul should come off the bench because we desperately need a leader off the bench. Anyway, NBA writer John Schulman highlighted data from the Fox-Paul-less lineups that only reinforce our point. They played 38 minutes over their 4 games last week with neither on the floor. Wow, I'm going to start this sentence over. They played 38 minutes over their 4 games last week with neither on the floor. They were outscored by 14 points, scoring just 102.4 per 100 possessions in those minutes. When considering the fact that our Spurs have lost 2 games in a row by a combined total of 2 points, 14 points is pretty significant. Johnson deployed questionable lineups and implemented odd substitution patterns throughout the season. He's taking guys out as soon as they get on a hot streak, putting combinations of players who don't make sense, and left guys in too long, etc., 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 etc. Mitch Johnson must improve quickly for this team to make the playoffs. I agree with that 100%. Playoffs, we got to win a game first. So there's Air Alamo's take. And I want to get into our net ratings because I thought this was actually pretty interesting, Spurs fans. Look at our most played lineups throughout the season, our top 3 minutes wise, and look at their offense and defense and net rating. Paul, Barnes, Champagnie, Wemby, and Castle. That lineup has played the most out of any of our lineups. They're putting up a terrific offensive rating, but the defensive rating. Remember when we were actually a good defensive team? It seems like last year. Wait, it was. They were giving up 112.2 with their net rating being about 13. Plus 13 for that lineup. You get to the second lineup. You see Paul, Barnes, and Castle's in there again, and Wemby, and now Vassell. That is also a very good defensive team. Actually even better, a 111.2 defensive rating. outscoring the opponents with a net rating of 11.5. All right. Last lineup, Paul, Barnes, Vassell, Sohan, Wemby. The offense takes a dip. That's probably what Jeremy's showing in there. But the defensive rating is a 100 and actually has the best net rating out of those top three, 16.3. What's the point of this, TSR? I don't get to see what you're getting at. Well, let's take a look at our current starting lineup of Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, and Victor Wembanyama. And I think we can all agree that lineup is too small. From the 1 to 5, you're 6 foot, 6'3", 6'5", 6'8", and 7'4". The average height in the NBA is what these days? 6'7", 6'8". So we have 2 guys that are average or better, and 3 guys that are below it or significantly below it. I say this all the time. I'm bigger than our entire starting backcourt. Not combined, but I'm 6'4". Our starting guards are 6 foot and 6'3". That's giving up way too much size. And you've got Vassell at small forward, who's also way too short. As I know it sounds weird saying too short at 6'5", but he's too short for the position. So again, back to the point of the slide. But I got to give him props. The turnover ratio has been absolutely terrific. I'm going to move my head for a second. 3.27 to 1. They're playing clean not turnover free, but less turnovers with Paul and Fox in there. Hey, I give them that. And the offensive rating is terrific at 120. But the defensive rating is the worst out of all these lineups. And again, I know it's only 4 games, but it's the worst out of these lineups. 122.1. Why do you think that is? Maybe because we're too damn small out there. Giving up offensive rebounds. How are you going to block a shot when you're 6 foot and the guard you're guarding is 6'8"? I got it. It's like Miss TSR trying to guard me. No offense, Miss TSR, but let's be real. I'm a foot taller than you. More than that. You're just not going to be able to play great on-ball defense and affect the shot if they've got a foot on you. Yeah, between the reach and the height. And probably the jump, too. I can't imagine CP3's vert exactly rocking these days. So this lineup is just too damn... I'm sorry, guys. You're just too darn small. I think they're going to roll with this for the rest of the year. And I know the Spurs community has been talking a lot, and a lot of you shifted to saying CP3 should come off the bench. And I went off on a little tirade on this on the last live stream. If he is the basketball genius that people think he is, right? The point god, self-proclaimed point god, then wouldn't you take a step back and look at, the best thing for this team would be for me to be selfless and go to the bench and lead the second unit that at times has been an absolute disaster. I like Steph. He's not ready to run the point. And Blake Wesley's not running the point. Not that he was a great point guard to begin with. Yes, he can push the pace and play some defense. But CP3 should have the humbleness to step up and say, you know what? I agreed to come here as a starter. That was the deal. But things have changed. You have your point guard of the future. Let me lead the second unit. Maybe I can extend my career by leading the second unit, only playing 20 to 22 minutes a game as being supposed to be out there 28 to 30. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think he's going to stay a starter, and it's going to cost us games. Now, to get back to the question at hand, are the Spurs tanking, or is Mitch Johnson clueless? Trading for De'Aaron Fox absolutely says, no, we're not tanking. Right, guys? We brought in a guy that we're hoping to be our point guard of the next, or combo guard. He's a scoring point guard, etc. Him and Castler are backcourt for the next, 5 years, 10 years? Well, maybe not 10 years. Maybe it's upper 30s, but you get the drift. We brought in an all-star to help us win games. So that says not tanking. And honestly, I don't think Mitch Johnson is clueless, but I think we are essentially tanking by Mitch Johnson being in way over his head right now. We're seeing no halftime adjustments, not calling timeouts when the other team's on a run. I don't remember which game it was, but it was like 8-0, 10-0, 12-0, 14-0, 16-0. Oh! Was it the Grizzlies? One of the Grizzlies games? I don't know. Now, I guess I'll call a timeout now. I know we're way behind now, getting blown out. This 16-0 run seems about the right time for this. Late timeouts on that. Not making challenges. When there's a play that's questionable and the player's saying, hey, challenge this, and we don't end up using a challenge for the whole game. And then the lineups. Center Sohan. What are we doing to this poor kid? Seriously, I know half the community's split. Like Jeremy, get rid of Jeremy. But are we really putting him in the best position to succeed with point guard Sohan last year or last season, and now center Sohan? What are we doing? And I don't ever hear him complain, do you? Just goes out there and does his thing. This can't be helping his development. Don't get me started on center Barnes. I mean, Jeremy's already too small, but at least Jeremy can sling some D at times. or actually he's actually one of our better defenders, but defensively he's going to struggle as a center. But then you put Barnes out there, who's not a rim protector, not running around doing cardio on defense most of the time. You're putting him at center? And then when we see these small ball lineups that are poor shooting small ball lineups, I just sit there and go, what are you doing? I know what we're doing. This is the art of tanking without tanking. It's an unintentional tank, but by Mitch Johnson's rotations and just not being, he's in over his head. Call it what it is. He's in way over his head. We're tanking by virtue of that. Because of that, we're probably going to finish somewhere 11th or 12th in the Western Conference, just missing the play-in, and be around number 10 in the lottery, which number 10 worked out pretty darn good last year for Atlanta. Not saying Lightning would strike twice, but if the Spurs got the first overall pick, I certainly wouldn't complain. And because now that I've all said everything today, you know damn well the Spurs are going to go out and beat the Celtics tonight, right? Watch. It's going to happen. I'm sitting here saying we're kind of tanking without tanking, blah, 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 and watch us put on the best performance we've had in a decade and beat the defending NBA champion, the Boston Celtics, tonight on ESPN at 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll be live for that. Cheap plug alert. So hope to see you in the chat tonight, and if we win, we'll probably win. That's just our Spurs, right? Don't expect them to. Do any of us really expect them to win this game? Probably not, which means they probably will. Drop a comment down below, your thoughts on everything. Were you on the start Chris Paul, side of things, and now that you're seeing the team and realizing we just need leadership so bad off the bench that maybe he should go to the second unit? Or are you still in the he should keep starting and just we'll ride with this lineup, ride or die, CP3, Fox, Vassell, Barnes, and Wemby. That's it to the end of the year, and whatever happens, happens. Always appreciate your feedback. Hit that thumbs up, support the channel, and subscribe to become part of our awesome Spurs community. I'll see you tonight. Thank you, and as always, go Spurs go.
Go Spurs go, 'cause the